Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Uh, this is briefly, how we are supposed to study the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Praise and glory belongs to Allah, the eternal absolute, who created all things, who revealed the book for us to have guidance by. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says inside the Quran, those who they listen to the word, then follow the best of it. Those are they whom Allah has guided them, and those are they, the men of understanding. Alladhina yastami'una al-qawla. Al-qawla is the things that is said. For example, when you see inside the Kitabullah, inside the Quran, you see where many times inside the Quran it says qul, like A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, qul hu Allahu ahad, qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Anytime you see inside the Quran where it says qul, that is to say a thing. So you understand that this is the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know what? Before I continue, I'm gonna do traditionally what I usually do. What I like to, because sometimes I can't see. Who can see? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and your families. Inshallah, keep them, if they're in good health, keep them in good health. And if they're not, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala indeed, make them feel a lot better. Inshallah. So, okay. So, to give you the surah, so in Surah 39, ayat 19, or excuse me, ayat 18, the Quran says, those who they listen to the word. The word here for word is al-qawla. Okay? And when you say qawla, this is the word that is often used inside the Quran for when you see, for example, the Quran says qul, like qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad. Anytime you see qul, that's the al-qawla, that itself is another name for the Quran. The Quran, the recital or the reading. The Quran means the reading or the recital, some people say. But also, it's the kitab. The kitab, the writing, or some people translate it as the book. It has everything in it. Okay? One of its names, one of the things that it contains is the al-qullah. So this is why you see all the verses that says, qul, say this, qul, say that. So it says those who listen. So they listen. The yasta mauna. They listen. Al-qulla. To the word. It says fatayabiuna. It says, and they follow it. Okay? To do it, to be a tabi, that means to follow something. It says they follow the best, the hasan, the ahsan. Okay? They follow the best thereof, or the good thereof, or the, that which is good. It's all good, but here is showing the better of the eyes, the bettering of the eyes. It says, those are the one whom Allah has guided. So here we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying who's guided. It says, and they are the men of understanding, or the people of understanding. Al-Bab. It's called Ulul Bab. So, Ulul Al-Babi. So understand, this is referring to a specific part of the Quran that we are supposed to follow. the best of it. Now, what is the best of it? The best of it is the foundation of the book, the muhakima ayats. Muhakim comes from the word hukm, which is often translated as hakim, wisdom, or if you're saying hukum, the judgment. So these would be the judging verses, the clear judging verses, the verses that give judgment inside the Quran. So any verse that you come across that's inside the Quran that gives you a judgment, those are the clear ayats of judgment that you are to govern your life by. So these are called the muhakimat verses. The Quran is divided into muhakimat and mutashabihat. Mutashabihat is verses that are sort of similar, but they are allegorical in nature, or they are something similar to what is with the muhakimat, but it's not exact, but it's really allegorical or similar. So it says in Surah 3, Ayat 9. Surah 3, Ayat 7. He is the one who has revealed to you the book, Al-Kitab. Minhu ayatun, muhakkimatun. Okay? So he says, he is who revealed to you the book. Of it are ayats, absolutely clear, muhakimat. They are the foundation of the book. So they are the foundation of the book. They are Ummul Kitab. They are the mother of the book. So right here in this ayat, it says, Hunna Ummul Kitab. They are the foundation of the book. They are the mother of the book. This is the best part of the book, like the other ayat said. Okay? So it says, they are the foundation of the book, and others are mutashabihat. They are metaphorical. They are similar, sort of. So it says, then as for those whose hearts is a perversity, they follow what is allegorical, seeking its interpretation. It says, then as for those in whose hearts is a perversity, they follow what is allegorical of it, seeking discord. So they're seeking out dissension. They're seeking out, problems. And seeking its interpretation. None knows its interpretation except Allah, and those firmly rooted in knowledge. They say, we believe in it. All of it is from our Lord. And none will take this warning except those of intelligence. So we got to understand the clear ayats of the Quran, the foundational ayats of the Quran, when you study it, they are the basic to make it, really it's simple. It's really actually easy. Are the verses inside the Quran that tell you to do the good deeds, the multiple different ways to do the good deeds, and the verses that tell you literally what to stay away from, the bad deeds. Those are the muhakimat. Those are the clear verses. Those are the verses that we are supposed to govern our life by. We're supposed to go by. Now, the other ayats that are similar, that are allegorical, a person is not supposed to just go to that and try to understand that. That is for if a person becomes more founded in what is muhakimat, the governing ayats, the clear ayats, then eventually Allah guides them in different levels of understanding to start seeing that this allegorical thing connects to this literal thing. This allegorical thing connects to this clear law. Okay? But that, that is that takes, of course, time. But as far as muhakimat, everybody, if they just know a little basic something, they can pick it up and they can guide their life by it. You see? You just have to know where it's at in the Quran. You just open up the Quran and you start reading it. A lot of people think that you need a hadith. A lot of people think you need a tafsir, which a tafsir is just a hadith. It's just a hadith that's saying something about the Quran. And but these ayats are very clear. You don't need a hadith. You don't need a tafsir, and a lot of people think so. But the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very clear, and there are people, well, let me continue and then I'll say that in a second. So that was Surah 3, ayat 7. Okay. So we are supposed to study the book. Allah only gave us one book to study. He didn't give us a whole bunch of books to study. You see, there are a lot of people that, if anybody's, I don't know who's familiar, but I follow the Quran by itself when it comes to deen. The companions of the Prophet, the Ahlul Bayt, they had to engage these ayats. They are human beings on different levels of understanding. And now you have come after them and you have to engage these ayats. Because on the day of judgment, you and them and everybody else will be standing before the Lord. And your Lord, your deeds are going to be on your own neck. You're not going to be able to say the Sahaba understanding is this. Because the Sahaba is going to stand before the Lord and their own deeds is going to be on their neck. Your deeds are going to be on your neck. The Ahlul Bayt's deeds is going to be on their neck. Everybody's going to be handed their book, their kitab on the day of judgment of what they did and what they didn't do, what they were supposed to do. And you will be responsible for what you did. So do not let nobody come in between you and your Lord. Do not let nobody get you to not engage the ayahs of Allah. They tell you you can't understand the ayahs. Nonsense. Enough of that. You don't need secondary books. You need to do us. You need to do salat. You need to engage your Lord like he's told you to. Let me give you an ayat. Surah 3. Listen to this. Surah 3, ayat 79. It is not for a human that Allah should give him the book, al-kitab, and the hukm, or the wisdom, or governing ayats. Some people translate. Excuse me. Hold on. I don't want to start there. I don't want to start there yet. Excuse me. I'll start there. Now I'll go back. Okay? Because this is important. This is important. Okay. It is not for a human, and in this case, the prophet, that Allah should give him the book, al-kitab, one book, the book, and the wisdom, wal-hukmah, the judging ayats, the wisdom, which is the hikmah that comes to the understanding that you have, the ayats that are inside the Quran that has wisdom in it, or the governing ayats. But Allah will give you the book and the wisdom and the prophethood. Then he says to the people, be you worshippers of me besides Allah. So Allah saying, when Allah sends a prophet and he gives him the book and he gives him the governing ayats and he gives him the prophethood, it is not for him to say, be ye adorers, ibadan, be ye adorers of me. Okay? Because ibadah means not just to worship, but ibadah means to adore something at a high level. Like you just, So he says, ibadan, adore me, worship me, besides Allah. But instead he would say, be ye worshippers, Rabbaniina, right? Rabbani is a person who worships Allah. So right here, Rabbaniini is worshippers of the Lord, or those who basically is connected to the word Rab. When you call Allah Rab, like Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, okay? So it's a connection to your Lord. So these are the Rabbani. If we're just talking about a person, Rabbani. But it says that you should be, but would say instead to them, be ye worshippers of the Lord because of what you have been teaching of the book, the kitab, the book, the Quran, the book, and because what you have been studying of it. So right here we understand, in the time of the companions, in the time of the Sahaba, in the time of the Mu'minun, in the time of Ahlul Bayt, they were given the book. We are given the book to study. One book. Later on, people had a whole bunch of books. But in the first generation, they didn't have a whole bunch of books. They had one book. And yet people claim that they're following like they follow because somebody took somebody's notes that somebody wrote and they said, this is the other book you follow. This is the Sunnah. But that's not the Sunnah. That's somebody's notes. And then people over the course of time started adding it with the book of Allah, saying you have to follow that. But that wasn't the wahi that came down to you. That wasn't the revelation that came down to you. That wasn't the revelation that came down to them. So Allah right here is saying the prophet comes and brings the book. And he says, then he says to the people, be ye worshippers of me besides Allah? No, he wouldn't say that. Instead, he would say, be ye worshippers of the Lord because of what you have been teaching of the book and because what you have been studying of it. So we see for 3 ayats right here, the best, they listen to the qawla, they listen to the words, and they follow the best of it. Then we see that the muhakima verses, they are the foundation of the book. They are the mother of the book. The literal governing ayats of the book that you're supposed to follow. And then right here we see in this surah an ayat that you are supposed to study the book. And that if the person who studied the book, they're called Rabbani. So let's look. Okay. Wahukma, yes. The wisdom, the governing verses. Okay. Al-Kitab wal-Hukma. Anabiya Thumma. Okay. So it says Thumma. After a while. Thumma is after a while. So I wanted to recite a verse before that. Okay. And indeed, there is among them, and this is Surah 3, ayat 79. I believe 79. Yep. So the one I just read was Surah 3, ayat 78. And this one is ayat 379. And then we'll get into some examples. I'll give you some examples what in the book are muhakimat verses. So you know what are clear ayats. But first, about the Christians that came before us and the people that came before, this is what they did to their book. And indeed, there is among them a party who altered the scripture. They alter the book with their tongues. So you may think it is from the book, but it is not from the book. And they say this is from Allah, and it is not from Allah. And they speak untruth about Allah while they know it. We have that today. We have that today. So it says, let's see, and they say it is from Allah, but it is not from Allah. Okay. So today the Muslims do the same thing. We go to secondary sources with our tongues. We read something over the verse, we get an understanding of it. We recite the book, we recite the Quran, but we don't get the meaning of its ayat from the ayat itself. We get the meaning from something else. And we read the book through something else. One brother the other day said to me, and I want to see this, and then we'll get to some examples, but this is important. He said, brother, how could you say, you used to be a brother that was strong in hadith. You was a brother that you even know some mustalah hadith. You know some things of usul hadith. So how could you go Quran by itself? How could you even do something like that? And he goes into, what we used to do. We talk about the the best generation, and the one after, and the one after. And I explained to him that we are all supposed to engage the book. This book was for Rabbil Alameen. I mean, not for Rabbil Alameen, but Allah, who is Rabbil Alameen. He gave it for all the generations for us to engage the book, because we are going to be accountable by ourselves on that day. You're not going to be able to blame the Sahaba. You're not going to be able to blame the Ahlul Bayt. It's going to be your deeds that you do. So let me explain something real quick. Yes, whoever the names you want to call it, the first generation, etc., etc., they passed down the perfect book when the book was perfected. They got the perfect book, they pass it down. Or you want to call it a writing, if you want to say the word kitab is writing, okay, fine. The writing, the kitab, whichever name, whatever translation you want to give it. It was perfected, it was complete. Allah completed the deen. He gave you the do's which you were to do inside the book. He gave you what not to do inside the book. And they grabbed it, they followed it, and they passed it on. Now, I accept the perfect book. That does not mean I accept the imperfect other stuff that other people do. For example, if Abu Bakr, Ali, whatever names you want to put out there, Umar, whatever name you want to put out there, they did something wrong, they made a mistake. You see, that don't mean I take their mistake because they're the companion with the book. You see? So, they have a thing called mutawatir. In the hadith category, it's called mutawatir, means majority of people heard something that they know is true, and they pass it down 3 generations consistently in the mutawatir chain isnad, right? 3 generations, and so therefore it's undoubtable, right? But the Quran is considered according to them, the Quran according to them is the highest mutawatir. It's the highest of the mutawatir. So my question was this. I said, I have the perfect book and you call it highest mutawatir. It is the perfect guidance without any doubt. And I take that by itself, knowing that the prophet had to go by it too. The Quran is very clear. Muhammad only follows what is revealed to him. Right? He got the book. He followed it. He judged. The judgments from Allah came to him and he gave it to the people. What Allah judged through him. So he followed it. So I'm following what he followed. So I'm taking that example. Now, you want to say I have to accept the notes that maybe some companions wrote about a certain thing or this, that, and this, that, and the third. And then other people got it. And then they put, some of it became false and some of it remained a little bit true. You see? And I'm supposed to take all that with the perfect book. And you tell me that because I accept the perfect book through them, that I have to accept the faulty stuff through them. That's not true. I can accept the perfect book through them. That's the highest muwatir, and not accept the imperfect things that they did or what they said or what they wrote. Because they had the perfect book and they passed on the perfect book. They passed on the perfect book. They made sure it got to us in the perfect form, so it is said like this. So the other stuff they did, the hadiths, they didn't make sure that it was perfect. It got tampered with. It got innovated. Then we had to come up with science of hadith to try to determine what statement is right, what statement is wrong. So they were careful about the Quran, but they weren't careful about the other stuff. But I'm supposed to accept the other stuff equal level with the Quran. And you say that I have to accept the imperfect stuff with the perfect book because I accept the perfect book? No, that makes no sense. It makes no sense. And that's not what your Lord said. Yes, it does inside the Quran, it praises the believers. But praising the believers for what they follow of the book does not mean you have to accept what the believers themselves did. Because every good action that a believer does that Allah accepts is from the book. He is told what to do from the book. And every bad deed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to stay away from is in the book. So every bad deed I stay away from, and the Sahaba stayed away from, and the Ahlul Bayt stayed away from, they did it because it is in the book. Because the prophets came with the guidance. It's not about the people, the personalities. It's about the commands Allah gave those personalities, and they became known and they became great because of the book. Because they followed the book. Now it is your turn. They are gone, and you are here. And you have to render account to your Lord about what you did with this book. But you're stuck. You're stuck reading other people's understanding. Where one school, one tafsir, or one sahih hadith that somebody determined through a certain science of hadith that they say is sahih, you see? But another school will say it's weak. These two schools are differing over which one is sahih and which one is not. Sometimes one will say it's sahih and one will say another one is sahih, and the two sahih contradict. But they're both sahih. You have no time for that. Those are histories that were written. And then people elevated them to wahi. People elevated them to the status of the Quran. But that is not what Allah revealed. That is what has grown over a course of time. So you are responsible for your Lord. He don't want to hear you on the day of judgment say, I followed this person, he misguided. Let me point another thing out, and then I'll give you some examples. What the muhakimat verse is. Listen to this. They have a theory in Islamic law. A jurist, a faqih, that he can make a ruling. He interprets, right? Now watch this. He interprets. If he gets it right, he gets 2 rewards. If he gets it wrong, he gets 1 reward. That's in the Ahlul Sunnah. That's within the Sunni tradition. In the Shia traditions in the Hadith, they say the opposite. You're not supposed to be trying to interpret, but that's, you know. But in the Sunni tradition, so let's say this. Let's say this scholar got it wrong. Watch this. Let's say this scholar got it wrong. Supposedly he gets 1 reward, but guess what? You're a follower. So you follow that scholar's wrong. On the day of judgment, you receive your book. You did a wrong deed. You blindly followed somebody. They gave you the wrong and you followed it. And it is a deed against you on your book. But that scholar supposedly got it right for his mistake. But you followed it. It's on your account. Can that scholar step in? Can that person step in and say, hey, you know, I'll take that for you. Right? I'll take that for you. No. No. It's on your own neck. So you need to engage the book of Allah because, listen, your Lord is giving you a surety. You engage the book of Allah and you sincerely ask your Lord is forgiving. You see that? The Quran is the only book that you are supposed to be judging by. The muhakimat verses. Listen, don't fall for the trick. They say, oh, you're a person of desire. No. I'm not a person following my own desires. We have muhakimat verses. We have clear verses that tell us how to live our life. I didn't reveal this book. I didn't invent the Quran. I didn't come up with the Quran. So it's not my desires. But that's the trick they try to play with you. Oh, you just want to do whatever you want to do, your desires. Are you saying that Allah hasn't guided us? Are you saying Allah hasn't made it clear in the book? I had a brother warn me, brother, you can't understand the Quran without a hadith. Really? And the first generation, where they have no hadith, and they engage the book, how did they get understanding? How did they get it? Remember the ayat I just read to you. That came to them. They were supposed to engage the book. You claim you following behind them supposedly. But you're not engaging the book fresh with your mind. For your level of understanding that Allah will raise you up. Each individual Allah has put in each every individual a certain level of comprehension. And you are responsible to engage your Lord. And it don't have to come through a second source or a third source or a fourth source, because all those sources is those men's level of comprehension. Now, I'm not saying they didn't get some things right. I'm not saying they got everything wrong. But what I am saying is you were told to engage the book. That's what you was told. This is a book for the Alameen, for the worlds, right? Not for the first generation only. And then you got to, everything the first generation say you got to, no. They were not sent as your prophets. Your prophets came to you. Your prophet came to you. He gave you a book. He gave you a kitab. He told you to study it. Or Allah told you to study it through him. He gave you the message through him. That's why he's the messenger. So each one of us is accountable. I'm sorry if some people feel like I'm disrespecting the Sahaba and their status, but that's not their status. Yes, if it's true, here's what I know. Inside the book of Allah, it talks about the believers, and the believers, Allah was pleased with them. But do you know, and the believers' path, whoever goes to a path other than the believer's path, Allah shall leave him in that path that he's went. But check this out. The path that the believers were on was this book. The path of the believers, not the believers themselves. It didn't say follow the believers themselves. It says whomsoever deviates from the path of the believers. Now, how do you become a believer? How do you get Iman? You engage the book. You reflect on Allah. You engage the book. You start practicing the book. Then you become a believer. That becomes your path. Your path is the book. Your path is Siratul Mustaqim. If you want to know what Siratul Mustaqim at, there's some rules. Surah 6, Ayat 151 to Ayat 153. Those are the Siratul Mustaqim rules that finally was revealed after the Fatiha. It's all in the book. You have the Muhakimat verses in the book. You leave the Mutashabihat until Allah elevates you. You'll know when you're elevated. Allah will let you know. Don't worry. That's why you're told to have sabr. You're supposed to have sabr. Sabr means to be constant, to be consistent. And this is a form of patience. So when you engage the book, that's how you do. Sometimes you're not going to know everything. Don't let people distract you. Oh, you don't know this. Ha ha. You don't know. Well, I'm a human being. I'm not supposed to know. I'm supposed to grow in knowledge. See, one thing I may not know today, another thing I may know tomorrow. So don't let a person say, oh, you following the Quran by itself. You can't, what's this and what's that and what's this and what's that. Okay, some things I'm going to know and some things I'm not. I'm going to grow in knowledge. If that is the true principle, then what about you? Sometimes when you follow hadith, you don't know all the hadiths, do you? So you should leave the hadiths on that principle because you don't know them all? No. At the end of the day, hadith is determined by so-called scholars. So it's determined by a man who is not a prophet, a man who belongs to a school, a man who follows a science of hadith that was put together throughout the generations to be able to determine if a note was correct, if it reached back to the time of the prophet or not. And you're going to waste your time studying history like that when you should be picking up this book and engaging it. SubhanAllah. How fooled I was for so long. All that science of hadith, oh my goodness, usul al-hadith and mustalah hadith and, is this marfu, is this... The words of your Lord is true. The words of your Lord is true. Okay, so we're going to do a few examples. We're going to go to Surah 3, Ali Imran, and just okay. Okay. Like this. Okay. Um, we just had this for. Okay, like this right here. This is a Muhakimat verse. O believers, when you contract a loan for a fixed period of time, committed to writing, let the scribe maintain justice between the two parties. The scribe should not refuse to write as Allah has taught them to write. They will write what the debtor dictates, bearing Allah in mind and not defrauding the debt. If the debtor is incompetent, weak, or unable to dictate, let their guardian dictate for them with justice. Now, do you need a tafsir for that? You need a hadith for that? We understand what the number 2 is. Call upon 2 of your men to witness. If 2 men cannot be found, then 1 man and 2 women of your choice will witness. So if one of the women forgets, the other may remind her. The witnesses may not refuse. The witnesses may not refuse. The witnesses must not refuse when they are summoned. You must not be against writing contracts for a fixed period. Whether the sum is small or great, this is more just for you in the sight of Allah and more convenient to establish evidence. And establish evidence and remove doubts. However, if you conduct an immediate transaction among yourselves, then there is no need for you to record it. But call upon witnesses when a deal is finalized. Let no harm come to the scribe or witnesses. If you do, then you have gravely exceeded your limits. Be mindful of Allah, for Allah is the one who teaches you. And Allah has perfect knowledge of all things. Recap. Allah is the one who teaches you. Allah is the one who teaches you. Allah is the one who teaches you. This book was revealed through the messenger who gave you the message. That's why he's called messenger of Allah. It is Allah's judgments that come through him to you. It is Allah's teachings that come to him through him to you. And that is what the rulings are from his mouth. One book. So obedience to the messenger is because of the message that he has for you. For example, if I was standing in front of Prophet Muhammad today, let's just say, and here comes Prophet Muhammad. A revelation comes down from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through him and tells me this. Now, if I say, I don't accept him as no messenger, and I turn around and walk away, what have I done? I rejected both Allah and I rejected the messenger. Because I can only get the revelation, I can only get the commandment through the messenger, you see? So rejection of the messenger who's coming is rejection of the message that he has for me that comes from Allah. So rejecting the messenger is rejection of Allah. The other way is in reverse too. If I go to Muhammad, I said, this is this man right here. I hear his message, his revelation coming from Allah. I accept that revelation coming from Allah. Then I have accepted this man as my messenger. So therefore, because I've accepted this man as my messenger, and because of that I listened to the message, I believe in it, I have obeyed Allah and I have obeyed his messenger. So obedience to the messenger is listening to his message, which is listening to Allah. And not listening to the message is rejecting that messenger. And because I'm rejecting that messenger, then I'm rejecting Allah. Don't let them fool you to tell you obey Allah and obey the messenger is two separate things. Obey Allah and obey the messenger is obey the Quran and obey Hadith. No, it's not. No, it's not. Because it didn't say obey Allah and obey Muhammad. It didn't use his personal name. It used a title. Obey Allah, obey the messenger of Allah. So that means the person is coming to you with a message from Allah. Whether it be a judgment, whether it be and this is all in the book. This is all in the book, all in the kitab. That's what it finalized as. Over a course of 23 years or 24 years, some say, ayats were coming to him. You see? So they had 4 ayats at one time, and then they had 9 ayats. Then a couple years later, they might have had 20 ayats. All throughout the period of his life. So every judgment he gave was actually from the book of Allah. This is why you'll find inside the Quran the arguments. This is why you'll find inside the book of Allah where it tells you the disbelievers say this and then say back onto them this. That's that word cool again. The qawla. Listen to the words and follow the best of it. See? So, when you listen to the message, which is inside the book that was finalized and completed and given to us, you'll also see inside the Quran where we are told, and I should have got that ayat. I'm going to post it up when this video is done. I'm going to post some of the ayats on top of the video. Usually I do that. So I'm going to give you the verse about the disbelievers coming to argue, and then the verse of response. And then I'm going to give you the ayat where it talks about the believers are told, do not ask anything. But if you ask when the Quran is being revealed so that it will make clear to you. Okay? The reason why I'm going to put that verse is because we got to understand something. Although, check this out. In tafsir, when I used to read those tafsirs, I remember that verse, and that verse was about a man, supposedly, who would ask the prophet about who his ancestors was. So this man would come, who's my ancestors? You know, it has a lot of things. Who was my real dad and who was my real mother and stuff like that, right? But suppose the eye came down and then it said, don't ask no question, right? Or it might be made hard for you. But if you basically if you want to ask, then ask when the Quran is being revealed and it will be made clear to you. See? So that let you know right there, without even the tafsir, that let you even know that the believers at that time were instructed. They got a question they ask when the revelation is. And then it will be made clear to them. So my point is that this Quran right here has all the answers that we are supposed to have. You see, anything the believers may have asked for real in history. I'm not talking about what's in the hadith books, because a lot of fabrications. Okay? Anything they really for real did ask got answered if Allah chose to. And it's in this book because Allah says it. Do not ask, but if you ask, when the Quran's been revealed, it will be made clear to you. See? So we got the believers asking questions, ayat coming down. We got disbelievers saying something, ayat coming down. The Prophet Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, so the only thing he gave was the judgments of Allah to the people for their deen. And that's in the book. So you only have one book to study, and you only have one book to teach from when it comes to your deen. Now, I'm not saying you can't read other things, but don't add them into your deen, though. Don't add them into your deen. Okay? Because Allah is the one that gives you the deen. He gives you the deen. No one else. He gives it to you through somebody, and that's through a messenger of Allah. Right? So, Another example of a muhakimat verse. Okay, another example of a muhakimat verse. I'm gonna go over here too. Might as well go over here. Okay. Here's who muhakimat verse. A clear governing ayat. Okay, those who. Okay, so Allah says inside the Quran. So by mercy from Allah, He says, were you lenient with them if you had been rude in speech and harsh in heart? And this is in Surah 3, ayat 159. It says, wait, okay, will you read that one? I'll go to Surah 3, 134. Okay, so Surah 3, 134, excuse me. Who spend in the cause of Allah during ease and hardship, and who restrain their anger, and who pardon the people, and Allah loves those who do good. So that's a muhakimat verse, because that's letting me know, okay, if whatever I get in another part of Quran tells you, give as much as you can. So listen, there is no 2.5% in zakat. Zakat is given to the level of what you're able to give. You see, what you're able to give, that's how much you can afford to give, right? Because your situation is going to be different. What if you don't got 2.5%? I know that some people say, well, why you not? But what if you don't got it? See? So, I know some people say you don't got to pay it, but it says, who spend in the cause of Allah, it says, during ease and hardship, who restrain anger, and who pardon the people. And Allah loves those who do good. So right there, you've been given what is one of the good deeds. See? So good deeds are a part of muhakimat. It's something that's clear. For example, Surah 4, ayah 26. Worship Allah and associate nothing with Him. And to parents do good. And to relatives, orphans, the needy, the near neighbor and the far neighbor, the companion at your side, the traveler, and those whom you have responsibility over or possess. Indeed, Allah does not like those who are self-deluding and boastful. That's clear. You know what boastful is: arrogant, bragging, pride. Right? You know what being nice to somebody means. You know what okay, you define what your neighbor was. So your neighbor, the person next to you, somebody further down, those are all your neighbors. Right? Be kind, be nice. Be nice. And it goes in more detail inside other verses. If you want to research, like, okay, well, be nice, that's okay, nice, like, all you got to do is take that word, study that word in different places in the Quran. That word is there, and have it according to its subject and its context, and you got your answer. But that's why the Quran, that's why Allah told you inside the book, study the book. That's why I tell you that. See? You have to study. You don't got time to study them other so-called things. Because this is what your Lord wants you to do, literally. And you don't need nobody adding to it, because now you're distorting the verse. So you got to make sure what you add to it is actually what your Lord has said about it. Surah 7, ayah 18, Surah 13. Allah said, okay, this is talking about time to Adam. But He says, descend from paradise, for it is not for you to be arrogant therein. We just read about arrogance. Now we have another ayah. See, so get out, indeed you are of the debased. So that's talking about your attitude. So that's an internal thing. Surah 7, ayah 199. Show forgiveness and join what is good and turn away from the ignorant. Another ayat says that when the ignorant address you, you say peace. We seek not the ignorant. See? Allah's telling you how to live your life. See? A person say, oh man, you are such and such. You are this and that. Sometimes we want to, man, we say more. Or we transgress beyond bounds and want to do more. So Allah's saying, hey, when the ignorant address you, just peace, salam. I'm okay, I'm good. Right? Now, a person try to put their hands in, Allah says inside the Quran what to do when somebody's trying to put their hands on you or trying to fight you. You fight back. See? So, these are just little, there's more detailed muhakimats. See, there's more detailed governing ayats that you're supposed to live by, but I'm just giving you little short ones. That's just straight, simple, easy to understand. You see what I'm saying? Surah 49, ayat 11. O you who believe, illa ladhina amanu. Let not a people ridicule another people. They may be better than them. Nor let women ridicule other women. Okay, let not men ridicule other men. Okay, they may be better than them. Let not women ridicule other women. Perhaps they may be better than them. And do not insult one another. And do not call each other by offensive nicknames. Wretched is a name of disobedience after one's faith. And whoever does not repent, then it is those who are the wrongdoers. So Allah told you now what a wrong is. And Allah told you what a right is. The right way to be and what not to do. And if you do it, he told you to what? Turn back. Turn away from that. See? So we're not supposed to insult each other, call each other by offensive nicknames. That's a muhakima ayah. You don't need a hadith for that. You don't need a tafsir for that. You see? And there's a bunch. I'll give a few more. And when it is said to them, follow what Allah has revealed, they say, qul. See, there's that qul again. Rather, we will follow that which our ancestors, those who before us, our fathers, are doing. Well, I'm going to keep it to the literal translation. Our fathers, okay? Ancestors that came before, right? Literally fathers, it means that. It says, even though their fathers understood nothing, nor were they guided. Check this out, though. The understanding and the guidance comes from this. Allah sent the prophets with the book so that he may give them so that he may give people the judgment, so that they may solve the disputes or problems between the people. So the understanding comes from this. This is how we're supposed to be looking through at the world. Our right and our wrong. Internal and external. It says in Surah 2, ayat 280. And if someone is in hardship, then let there be a postponement until a time of ease. But if you give from your right as charity, that is better for you if you only knew. Right? So, from what I understand, and I have to go relook that back up, this is referring to debt. But you need to go look it up yourself. I'm studying the book. You need to study the book too. Each of us will be held accountable. But from what I recollect, that is referring to when somebody's in debt to you. They're in hardship. You give them an extended time. So Allah is even telling you with even debt. And there's another ayat in there, some other ayats like that too. You give them extended time. We know how people can be. Man, this guy owed me. I want it right now. Give it to me right now. I want it now. See? And, but Allah's saying, no, listen. If he having that problem like that, Give him extended more time. And then he tells you a higher level. But if you give from your right as charity, it's better for you if you only knew. Now that's talking about debt. I'm pretty sure of it, but check it out for yourself. Okay. Bribery. Surah 2, ayat 188. And do not consume one another's wealth unjustly, or send it to the rulers in order that they may aid you and consume a portion of wealth of the people in sin, while you know it is unlawful. We're not supposed to bribe people. So yeah, you going to the whoever, the judge or the friend or somebody, and you say, hey, man, why don't you go ahead and overlook that, or hey man, why don't you go over ahead and let me, do that. You're not supposed to do that. See? Another Mukahakimat verse. Don't break promises. Surah 2, Surah 2, ayah 177. Righteousness is not that you turn your faces east and west. It's not righteousness. But true righteousness is one who believes in Allah, the last day, the angels, the book, and the prophets, and gives wealth in spite of love for it. See, that's the purification right there. You love it. You're giving up what's hard for you to give. So they give up the wealth in spite of love for it to the relatives, orphans, the needy, the traveler, those who ask for help, and for freeing slaves. And who establishes the prayer and gives the zakat? Those who fulfill their promise when they make a promise, and those who are patient in poverty and in hardship and during battle, those are the ones who have been true, and it is those who are righteous. So now you know what the more fuller deal of what a righteous person is. They have al-bir, they have righteousness, and they have taqwa. Because those are the two words. At the top of righteousness, they use righteousness. At the bottom, that's muttaqin, if I remember correctly. And that at the top, righteousness is al-bir. These are muhakama verses. You can go anywhere. You can apply them to yourself. You don't need no hadith. You don't need no tafsir. They're all throughout the Quran. They're governing ayats for your life, in here and outside your conduct. See one more. Stand out firmly for justice. O you who believe, be persistently standing firm in justice, witnesses for Allah, even if it be against yourselves, or parents, or relatives, whether one is rich or one is poor. Allah is more worthy of both. So follow not personal inclination, lest you be not just. And if you distort your testimony or refuse to give it. Refuse, then indeed Allah is ever with what you do acquainted. So that right there is telling you about being a just person, being fair. So everything I just read right here, these are the good deeds that you do that will get you into paradise by the mercy of Allah. Okay, you have the mercy of Allah. Okay, if you do some wrong deeds, then the mercy of Allah may cover you, but you did the good deeds to show that you are striving, that you're making the effort. You see? So, Surah 4, ayat 7. And for the women is a share of what the parents and close relatives leave, be it little or much, an obligatory share. So now I'm telling you about, the inheritance. And there's other ayats on it. That's how the book of Allah is set up. You can get the little detail, or you can get the in-depth detail that Allah chooses what is detail, not what you think is detail. not what you feel is detailed, not what you think the book is missing. I had some people come in, well, what about this? What about that? He tells me, what about bestiality? People don't know that they have been made to not like the book of Allah, and they don't know it. They have been made to question and doubt the book of Allah, and they don't know it. They think them secondary books have more detail, right? And they do, and they got some details, but they're not the details Allah gave. But just because you got more detail don't mean you're on truth. The Talmud has a lot of detail. When you go to Judaism, the Talmud has a lot of detail towards that Torah. But that Talmud is full of falsehood. Even in the ayat, and I should have got this ayat, but Allah mentions those with a bunch of books. A bunch of books. He said they're like donkeys. No, not that you have a bunch of books, you like a donkey, but he's referring specifically to a lot, some of the Jews who had a whole bunch of books, but they don't, you see. So he said like donkeys. So just because a person have a lot of detail, it don't mean your detail is right. It don't mean your detail is correct. Matter of fact, if your detail was not revealed, then it's not right. It's not correct. Not for following deen. Deen is the judgment of Allah. Deen is the way that we're supposed to live. So only Allah can tell you through his messenger, through the revelation in the form of the book that he left, what your deen is. You can't you're going to trust your deen to an imperfect book with imperfect men that Allah has not guaranteed, that follow a certain school, who slants the principles of the hadith according to the founder of the school, who himself is a man who himself a little bit engaged the book too, and then mix it with other stuff. I wouldn't trust that. And there's different sciences of hadith. You have the Shafi Mustalah, you have the Hanafi Mustalah. You know, among the Shia, you have Sun al-Sunnah, the Mutaridis, and the Asharis don't consider the Salafis. Those really are al-Sunnah because they don't follow the madhab. And the Sunnis, they consider themselves, if you're Mutaridi and Ashari and you follow the madhab, you're al-Sunnah. That's what they say. And the Salafis, who don't follow no madhab or strictly a madhab, they say among the Sunnis that the other ones, for a lot of Salafis, not all, they say that those who follow a madhab or those who are Mutaridis or those who are Asharis, that they are astray. So what principle hadith I'm going to use? What science of hadith I'm going to use? Shafi one? Hanafi one? Which Usul hadith? Which Mustalah hadith? Hanbali? Which one did Allah choose? Which one did the messenger give us in the book? I'm not talking about that you can read a couple ayats in the book and try to derive a principle from. Okay? Because that's what they did, a couple of them. They derived some things from the book. And then they add stuff. You see? Some of it is more hadith based in the science. Some of it has some things in the book from the book. The stuff that's from the book, alhamdulillah. That's good, you got something from the book. Right? That's good, you got something from the book. But just because you got something from the book, we have been warned over and over again not to mix truth with falsehood. So my question to you is, if you have books that have truth and you have books that have falsehood in it, you supposed to invent a science to determine what's true, distinguished from the falsehood? When you have the Furqan right here, you have the Furqan right here, the distinguishing guide right here that Allah has revealed for you. And you're going to go to other books that have truth and falsehood mixed in them, waste your life trying to find out what's saying is right, what's saying is wrong. Then you end up in a certain school, and that school say that school's wrong. My hadith is sahih. His hadith is not sahih, it's da'if. Then you go to that school, they calling your sahih hadith da'if. So who's right? It's a mess. Just accept the perfect book that Allah completed. He gave you a favor, he completed and gave you the favor for you to follow. Just follow it. He told you simple good deeds. Do the good deeds. Go find out what all the good deeds are inside the book of Allah. Follow them. Go find out what all the bad deeds are inside the book of Allah. Stay away from it. Then you're on guidance from your Lord. Those are muhakimat. Mutashabihat, in due time, maybe Allah may make you have some understanding the more you study. But don't be going after mutashabihat right away. Only seeking that. Trying to cause people to doubt the book. Questioning the, making the believers want to go away from the book. I'll tell you who was doing that. If you read deep inside the Quran, it was the munafiqeen. Just read the Quran deeper. Go look up the munafiqeen, how they was trying to cause the believers not to like the message. You get content with following this alone by itself. You have all type of people that try to make you doubt. Do not be doubters. Like I said, you're not going to know everything at first. You was born ignorant. How are you going to know it all? There are people that follow hadiths. They don't know all the hadiths. Do they live hadiths because they don't know every single hadith? No. They stick with it until they find the answer. You do the same with the book of Allah. And if Allah didn't give you an answer, then you're free of that because Allah is all-knowing. Be satisfied with what Allah has revealed through his messenger to you. Because one thing you got is this is the perfect book. He said this is the book without any doubt. This is the guidance without any doubt. So, if you make a mistake, alhamdulillah, your Lord is forgiven. If you follow it and you right and you perceive right, alhamdulillah, Allah knows your heart. He knows your intention. He's not an unjust Lord. He's the one that told you to follow the book. But people try to use that to tell you, to deviate you to something else. And they spend their lives reading secondary and third-rate sources into the book. They don't even check the ayah for themselves. I mean, they're not reading the ayah what it says for itself. They're reading the ayah for what somebody else have said about it. And Allah told us all to engage the book. Every generation. Okay, another muhakama ayah that's clear. You don't need a hadith. You don't need a tafsir. A tafsir is just a hadith. Surah 2:20, and you saw the ones in Arabic that I read. But this is, I'm going through the English. Actually, this video I had. So, Surah 2:20. To this world in the hereafter, and they ask about the orphans. Say, qul. Remember I told you about the qul. Now remember in the other ayat, where it tells you, what was it? I think it was Surah 30, ayat 79, I think. No, it wasn't. It was Zumar. It was yes. It was Surah 39, ayah 18. But he says the al-Qulla, okay? Alladina yastami'una al-Qawla fayatabi'una, okay? Asanahu, right? So he tells you to follow al-Qawla, right? And the best statements, right? The best sayings. So everywhere you see inside the Quran where it says qul, that's al-Qulla. Now people, they try to say that this al-Qulla, some of them try to say that's the Prophet's personal speech. But qul is actually the revelation coming down. You see? So they listen to the word, right? And they follow the best thereof. Those are ones whom Allah has guided, and those are the men of understanding. So we already went over that. That the al-babi, okay, the men of understanding. So we understand that I'll call it the asanahu, right? We understand the asan ayat, the asan words, right? Those are actually the Umar Kitab. Those are the foundations of the book. Those are the muhakima ayats mentioned in the other surah. Okay, so we are looking at some examples of muhakima ayats that you implement in your life. So that one was about protecting orphans. It says, they ask you about the orphans. Say, improvement for them is best. And if you mix your affairs with theirs, they are your brothers. And Allah knows the corrupter from the amender. And if Allah had willed, he could have put you in difficulty indeed. Allah is exalted in might wise. Right? So you got that for the orphans. You can go to Surah 6, Ayah 151. Ayah 6, Surah 6, Ayah 151, 153. Those are the ayahs of Surah Mustaqim. Fatiha, that was at one period of time when the ayah came down. Ihdina Surah Mustaqim. Surah 6, Ayah 151, 153. That was the Surah Mustaqim revealed that you were asking about. Those are rules. Inside those rules, it refers to the orphan. That is one of the commands of your Lord about what you're supposed to do as far as the orphan's rights. Another thing, in Surah 2, Ayat 262, those who spend their wealth in the cause of Allah and do not follow their charity with reminders of their generosity or hurtful words, they will get their reward from their Lord. And there will be no fear on them, nor will they grieve. Kind words and forgiveness are better than charity, followed by injury. And Allah is self-sufficient, most forbearing. Do you need a hadith for that? You need a tafsir for that? You have the tafsir of Allah. His words are bayan. The bayan, they're clear. Spend the wealth. And the other ayat tells you give as much as you can. But in another ayat tells you what? Don't hold your hand tied to your neck as to give nothing, nor give everything out so as to have nothing. And then you become in despair. So Allah tells you, the more you study, he adds more detail because that is how he revealed the book. Over the course, according to people call history, 23 years. But we know from the Quran, he revealed it here a little, there a little, because he even says it inside the book. Right? So those who spend their wealth in the cause of Allah, again, and do not follow their charity with reminders of their generosity or hurtful words. So you don't come and you say, oh, I gave you this, I gave you that. SubhanAllah, why? You're giving for what? The other ayat tells you. To please your Lord, right? So for everything you do, your deen, your judgment from Allah, like Maliki Yawmuddin, Master of Day of Judgment, your judgment from Allah, your deen, your way of life, is in the books. Your muhakimat verses that you're following, they are the little verses that tell you to do the good, and they tell you what to do. The muhakimat verses that you're following, they're telling you literally what not to do. That's not called being a follower of your own desires. Do not let people lie to you. You are following the commands of your Lord like he told you to. Those who follow their own desires, I'll do another talk on that. And I'll actually break down on the screen in the Arabiya. Following your desires is something else. Completely different than what these people are saying. How am I following my desires if I go out there, I give charity, and I don't remind somebody of the wealth that I gave them or I fed them? And then notice here, Oh, and you didn't follow up with hurtful words. And then notice here. Oh, and that's ayat, I just read Surah 2, ayat 262. There will be no fear on them, nor will they grieve. It says they will have the reward from their Lord. Stop. So you mean to tell me, if I follow these simple rules, I will have a reward from my Lord? So what happened to I had to follow a hadith though? Where's the so-called sunnah in this? If I follow this straight like this, if I go out there right now, I read this, and I go right there right now, after just reading this, I go out there and I feed the poor, and I do just like this, my Lord has guaranteed me a reward. Other ayahs talk about you will enter paradise, because these good deeds like this get you to paradise. And they call these type of good deeds Siratul Mustaqim, the straight path. I didn't read a hadith. I didn't read a tafsir. I read the command of my Lord and I went and did it. Don't let these people trick you. Hadiths are notes that somebody sat down. It's a mixer of stuff, actually. Notes that maybe some of the believers, you don't, listen. They say the companions wrote, some of the companions wrote these things. Okay, that's what they say. But read the Quran. Does it say they ever wrote anything? Did they write? Show me in the book of Allah. According to the history that they record, the message of Allah, this book, was revealed over a course of 23 years. So that means I should have an ayat, at least one, that shows me that the believers wrote stuff down that the Prophet said. I'm not talking about the Quran. Other stuff. I should have one verse. One. In 23 years. It mentions battles in here. It mentions treaties. It mentions what you're to do with when you can do something with your wife. When you're to fast. When you're to break the fast. Can I get one ayat that says the companions of the Prophet, the family of the Prophet wrote something down on what the Prophet did? One ayat? All we see, it says right here, from what I know, it says they read the book and they study it, or they teach the book, they study the book and they teach it. Al-Kitab. That's the book we were given, literally. So all these other books, I'm not disrespecting nobody in the past. I'm just saying the deen that I follow is the book. Just like they were ordered to follow the book. And that was their path. Their path was following the book. So we believe. So we're told inside the book. But they got us following the notes that somebody wrote. They got mixed with Judaism. They got mixed with Christianity. They got mixed with Zoroastrianism. They got mixed with people who wanted you to, that was lying. People were into politics and they want to invent sects and political parties and rulers. So they fabricated hadith and all mixed. And then you got to come up with these science of hadith. And then the science of hadith, you got each different type of science of hadith according to the school that person follows. Come on, subhanallah. And at the end of the day, after all of that, they will bicker which one is Sahih and which one is not. Meaning, which sect Sahih is wrong, their Sahih is wrong and my Sahih is right. How can you have two Sahihs that contradict each other? That's not guidance. We're being tricked and we're being fooled. And we're wasting our time. So there are plenty of muhakima ayats. I'll rattle some off. Surah 429. Surah 49 ayat 9. That's causing settlement between people. If two factions among the believers should fight, then make settlement between them two. But if one of them oppresses or opposes the other one, then fight against the one that oppresses until it returns to the ordinance of Allah, the command of Allah. Returns to the command of Allah. And if it returns, then make settlement between them in justice and act justly. Indeed, Allah loves those who act justly. That's pretty clear. Another ayat of Quran tells you to do consultation, mutual consultation. That's pretty clear. Do not spy on each other. Surah 42, ayat 12, about spying and backbiting. Do not spy or backbite each other. Would one of you like to eat the flesh of his brother when dead? You would detest it. So fear Allah. Indeed, Allah is accepting of repentance, most merciful. Spend wealth in charity. If Allah establish you in the land, if He makes your deen grow in the land, and that makes you become established, you establish your salat, you establish the zakat, you establish the things that Allah has told you to do. You do these good deeds in the land. See? And you stay away from the bad deeds that Allah tell you to. You get paradise. See? It's that simple. It's that easy. It's not hard. Let's see. All believers donate from what we have provided you before the arrival of a day when there will be no bargaining, friendship, or intercession. Those who disbelieve are truly the wrongdoers, meaning they go beyond the bounds. Why do they go beyond the bounds? Because they don't have the laws of Allah that gives them the boundaries. See, it's not that they themselves are, it's that the way that they live, the way that they live is an incorrect way to live. They don't know the limits that Allah has imposed. Therefore, they are living in the wrong way. So they are naturally going across the bounds. But you don't. You have the book that tells you your boundaries. We read a few of them. We've been reading a few of them. Honor your guests. Surah 51:26. And stories of the past prophets are given to you so that you may remember those and see that as an example. You see, that's another thing that we fail to realize. Practice what you preach. Surah 2, ayat 44. Do you order righteousness of the people and forget yourselves while you recite the scripture? Then will you not reason? So my question is, what scripture is it talking about here? What scripture are they reciting? Are they reciting hadith? Let there be no compulsory religion. Do not burden a person beyond his scope. That's Surah 2:285. Do not become divided. Surah 3, ayat 103. And hold firmly to the rope of Allah, the hubillah. All together, and do not become divided. La firaq, no division. And remember the favor of Allah upon you, when you were enemies and He brought your hearts together, and you became by His favor, His favor, brothers, and you were on the edge of the pit of fire, and He saved you from it. So does Allah make clear to you His verses, that you may be guided. So, Surah 3, ayah 103. Allah has made it clear in His verses. These are muhakama verses. Clear in these type of verses. So that you be guided. You got guidance through these ayats. Why do you need a hadith? Why do you need tafsir with your hadiths? That was pretty clear. You're on the edge of the pit of the fire. Now that was referring to, this is what I term a historical hadith. I mean, historical, the whole Quran is a hadith though. It's the hadith of Allah. But it's a historical ayat, meaning it emphasizes something that was said on the historical context, but it's a principle that applies now. We're supposed to hold fast to the rope of Allah. Because why it applies now? Because we have a rope of Allah. We have the Hubballah. And some people argue over the interpretation of the word rope of Allah, cable of Allah. Some people say it's not an objective thing, it's something else. Okay. But all in all, when you go throughout the Quran, you understand this is what we're holding on to. This is the book that united. Right? And so this is what unites you. All that other stuff going to divide you. Right? It's going to divide how you fighting each other, calling each other, all type of stuff. Now that don't mean somebody couldn't follow this a little bit and then still have arrogance in their heart, or have some of the hang-ups that Allah told you don't have. He just got to tell you this book don't have. And so because you're not following, you're divided between your brother because of your own arrogance. Now, it don't mean that. It means that this unites you. See? If you really follow this, it unites you. So to follow this is to follow the good it tells you to do. It's to follow the way you think. You think the way it telling you the best way to think. And the way that it tells you to stay away from, it tells you to stay away from that. That's called following this. And if everyone is following it like that, it unites you. Because if I'm not arrogant to my brother, and my brother is not trying to be arrogant towards me, there's going to be peace. You see, if my brother who doesn't have as much as I have, I help my brother like I'm supposed to. And my brother who doesn't have, you see, tries to, out of just being thankful to Allah, when he comes up on it, he helps me too. There's going to always be some type of fraternity. We're going to have, good feeling towards each other. No one's taking advantage of each other. You see what I'm saying? So just all the little things it told you to do, the good deeds, if we all are practicing those good deeds, you're going to have unity. Your hearts are going to be, in unity with each other. You see? So this book guides to that which is right. So if you see division, it's not because of the book. It's because of what's in the heart of the person, and they're not practicing the book. You see? So, like Allah says, through this, he says, you on the edge of the fire. Why? Because like the other ayah says, those disbelieve, they do wrongdoing. You see? They transgress beyond the bounds because they don't know the limits of Allah. So when you don't know the limits of Allah, you're causing oppression in your life. You don't know the limits of Allah, you're causing, craziness in your life. And so therefore, you're causing oppression in the world. When you cause oppression in the world, that leads you to the fire. There are some people, well, that's something else. There's some people that have some good characteristic and traits. So they have some of these, they do these deeds naturally. They don't have a book tell them to do it. They just do it naturally. But the question is, why do they do it? If they do it out of selfishness, then that's not truly a benefit, because there's selfishness in there. There's self-centeredness in there. You see, if they're not doing it to please Allah, then eventually they're selfish. Everyone does something selfish for selfish sake. Eventually, people will leave what's good for selfish sake. You might be doing good for selfish sake right now, but selfish sake is about self. So, because it's not about Allah, eventually, people are like, man, this ain't working out for me. Me doing these good things, it's not working out. So his selfish heart or her selfish heart is going to make her go do something on something wrong on the selfish level, because this selfish thing he's doing in a good way is not working out for them. They're not getting what they self really wants out of it. You see? So, so he makes his verses clear to you that you may be guided. And there's other ayats. Don't be miserly, Surah 4:37. Don't be envious, Surah 4:54. Don't be an advocate for deceit, Surah 4, ayat 105. Stay away from sin and transgression, meaning do not cooperate in wrong, in sin and aggression. Sin is according to what Allah has told you sin is, and aggression, what Allah has told you what aggression is. and fear Allah. Indeed, Allah is severe in penalty. Okay, be just. That's okay. Stay away from sin and aggression. That's in Surah 5, Ayah 2. Be just. That's in Surah 5, Ayah 8. Avoid toxic intoxicants. That's in Surah 5, Ayah 90. Do not gamble. That's in Surah 5, Ayah 9. And people that worship false things don't literally be talking bad about their false things, like just talking all type of bad names, calling it names. Oh, that's stupid, stuff like that. Don't do that. That's not how our character is supposed to be. Yes, we're supposed to tell people that what they are on or what they're doing, we're supposed to invite them to the oneness of Allah, but we're supposed to do it in a certain manner that is respectful, and we're supposed to do it in a certain manner that is we want them to come. We are inviting them to come. You see, we don't want them to be mad at us. Now, we can't help it if they get mad if we tell them the truth. But we don't want to have an arrogant spirit about what we're trying to tell them is the right thing. You can be firm, and you can be, sometimes you got to be straight to the point. Sometimes it get like that, but you got to bring yourself back. You got to bring yourself back. Remember, this is not a deen that we created. This is a deen that Allah gave us. So therefore, it is a deen that we must give out according to how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us to give it out. See, and sometimes we get caught up and we get personal, oh, and you don't accept, like this. But we got to remember, we didn't reveal this. This is not ours. This is for us to go live our life by. In that way, it's ours. But we are not the author of this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, our fitra, on the pattern. You see? So these are the good deeds that we're supposed to do, that He's revealed. But we're supposed to do in the way that He wants us to do. And we got away from doing these things through nature. So that's why we had to have messengers. People started having conflict and fighting each other. So Allah sent the prophets with the books that has the judgments so that problems could be solved. See? And it's the book, it is the rules, it is the way that Allah has told us to be like and how to think like and what to stay away from and what to do that solves the problems. See? Because all the problems in the world comes from here and here. What's in the heart. And it manifests outward. Batin wa zahir. Batin, the hidden, that manifests outwardly. Eat and drink, but do not be excessive. So Surah 3, Ayah 31. Protect and help those who seek protection. Surah 9, Ayah 6. Allah will forgive those who did wrong out of ignorance. And of course, we know if you did something wrong and you repent and you start mending your ways, you start doing the good things Allah tells you to do, and stay away from the bad things Allah tells you to do, you know your Lord is forgiven. Invitation to Allah should be with wisdom and good instruction. Surah 16, Ayah 125. Invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and good instruction, and debate with them in a way that is best. Indeed, your Lord is most knowing of who has strayed from His way, and He is most knowing who is rightly guided. So that tells us how to debate and tells us how to call people. Now, pursuing that which you have no knowledge, and do not pursue that which you do not have no knowledge. Indeed, the hearing. Now, this is important. For on the day of judgment, you will be held accountable. Companions ain't going to be able to save you. The Ahlul Bayt, I know some people think they will, but the Ahlul Bayt, they're not going to be able to really save you. They're not going to be able to save you. The scholar is not going to be able to save you. Okay? People think the prophet is going to be able to save them. Your deeds is fastened around your neck. Okay? The mercy of Allah is going to save you. I know people, well, you know what? I'll do one on intercession. I'll do one on intercession one day. Because people interpret into that. And I need to find the ayah, but it's a literal ayah. It's not a ayah that you interpret. It's a literal ayah where Allah says that you have no intercessors except Allah. Okay? There will be no intercessors on that day except Allah. So, But this is, do not pursue that which you have no knowledge, and do not pursue which you have no knowledge. Indeed, the hearing, the sight, and the heart, the mind, about those will be questioned. Listen, if you follow a hadith, you've never met the companions of the Prophet. If you follow a hadith, you never met Ahl al-Bayt, the ones back in the past. Because some people told me, I met a Sayyid today or something like that. Okay, but we talking about the ones I'm talking about, right? The ones they try to say is the important. Yeah, I met them. What you have met though, is the Book of Allah. You have met the Book of Allah. You have been told in the book to study it. You study it, not somebody study it for you. Not this great person over here studied it so much that he studied it for you, so you can take what he has, told you might, maybe in it with the hadiths and everything, and you take that and follow blindly. No, you study it, so you're gonna be questioned. You will. So if that guy existed way back then, you don't know him. You got different groups talking about him. For example, different groups talk about it. Imam Ali. They call him Imam Ali, Khalif Ali. Different groups talk about him. You got different groups that talk about Abu Bakr. Different groups talk about Umar. Some people present a good aspect. Some people present a bad aspect. It all determines what group you decide you're going to go with. At the end of it all, you don't know them. You don't know them. You never met them. You never talked to them. The only thing for sure you know is this book in front of you. So this is what you need to be focusing on, because your eyesight and your hearing and your mind is going to be questioned. And he said, don't pursue what you don't know. You don't know them. Whatever good they did is good for them. Today, focus on you. Whatever good you do is good for you. Then when you're sitting in Jannah with them, then you can sit there and ask them, listen, when we was up on doing this and that, they used to tell us stories about you doing this and that. Is that true? And then he will tell you if that's a sahih. If that's a sahih hadith. But until then, go on the straight path, Sirat al-Mustaqim of your Lord, before it's too late. And I say this out of all due respect and all wanting for my brothers and my sisters who are stuck, just like I was stuck in that. Follow the muhakimat. That's sure guidance. Don't let people tell you can't follow the book. Don't let people tell you. I mean, I save so much. Don't enter people's houses without seeking permission. I mean, the way you're supposed to live is right here. Judge with justice between people. Do not neglect your portion of this world. I mean, going out and getting your livelihood in the world. But Surah 28:77. But seek through that which Allah has given you the home of the hereafter. But seek through that which Allah has given you the home of the hereafter. And yet, do not forget your share of this world. And do good as Allah has done good to you. So Allah bless you with favors. Bless people with favors is what's saying. It's right there. And desire not corruption in the land. Indeed, Allah does not like corruptors. All you got to do is read inside the Quran what he calls corruption. All the things he says don't do, that's part of corruption. All the things that is a good that he's done to you is the good he tells you in this book. And whatever blessings, that he's given to through whatever means. And he tells you go out there, seek your livelihood in the world. In another parts of the Quran, he tells you how to do that. You just got to study it. Enjoying what is right, forbid what is wrong. let me explain something. Um, a brother told me the other day, every deed that you do is based on your salat. That if you do salat, all your deeds are accepted. The good that you do is accepted. If you miss your salat or you don't do salat, all your good deeds that you did is nothing. That's a lie. That's a lie. Salat is something you're supposed to do to remember Allah. That's the purpose of it. And salat is for the benefit for you to restrain from doing evil. It gives you the remembrance of Allah. Yes, if you neglect, if you say as-salah, I'm not going to do prayers at all, that's going to be an issue. There's going to be a punishment for you for that. You see? But you missing a salat, that don't mean your other good deeds, you see, that you did are gone. It don't mean that. Allah says what? He says on the day of judgment, all your deeds will be weighed, right? All your deeds. The good you did, the bad you did, all of it's going to be weighed. Not just if you do salat, if you don't do your salat, all your good deeds you did is gone. It doesn't matter at all. That's not true. Allah is going to weigh everything you did. It's all going to be in your book. These deeds count for something that you do. The reason why I bring this up is not so that people miss a lot. No, don't miss your salat because you can do your salat, then do it. Okay, a brother missed salat, and this brother's having, for some reason, I don't know why, but brother having a hard time with salat. It might be because he's doing it 5 times a day or 20 times, I don't know, but he's having a problem with the salat. And so this brother is, I mean, quite naturally, you're gonna, when you don't do the salat, you're gonna start, like it says, you'll start going, more and more astray, because salat is to remember Allah. There's other forms of remembering Allah too, right? But salat's for remembrance of Allah. So he's basically, more, starting to do other stuff. So I finally asked his brother, I said, man, Aki, why don't you just do the prayer? Just do your salat. Just do, and he's I don't know, for some reason he's having the problem, right? But here's the interesting thing. He started to try to do the salat, but then he stops. And he just, I'm not going to get into all that, but he says something interesting to me. He said, because I've been missing my prayers, all my good deeds is gone. All his good deeds are gone because he missed his prayers. And I finally had to tell the brother, I said, brother, see, I've been trying to call you to this. I said, brother, every deed that you do, I said, your Lord is not unjust. Allah don't need your salat. You need your salat. The salat is for you to remember Allah so that you don't start doing bad deeds. So that you remember Allah and you feel close to Allah. I said, brother, them other good deeds that you did, they're still there. Don't do these other bad deeds because you missed some salats. Because now these bad deeds, you're catching up with your good deeds. Do your salat. So he's in between this thing because I'll just tell you, he's having a hard time doing the 5 salats. I told him it's 3 salats. Straight up. I told him it's 3 salats, Aki. It's 3. It's not 5. I said, no one in the Quran says 5. I said, they interpret it like that. I said, even in their tafsir, they'll tell you, supposedly the believers used to pray 2 times at one time, and then they prayed 3 times, and then they started praying 5 times finally. I said, So it's not a new understanding, even in their books. I said 3 salats is what it stayed as. Surah 11, ayat 114. Some of them try to say that they incorporate other ayats. And they say that is the 5 salat. That's part of it. Then some of them say in the tafsir, and one day I'll bring it out. Some of them say in the tafsir, no, Surah 11, 114, that is the 5 salats. Then some of them will say, no, Surah 11, 114, this ayat, it was when the believers prayed 3 salats, or some say 2, 3 salats, but then later on the 5 salats came. Now which one is it? Is this Surah 11, ayat 114, is that the 5 salats? How you try to interpret it with the verses? Or is it actually the 3 salats that at first was established and then later on the 5 salat came? Which one is? You can have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. Okay? So it remained 3. It's been 3. I said, now I do believe that at first it was 2, because when you read inside the Quran, it mentions a certain way of 2, and then it becomes 3. You see what I'm saying? So what it is read, what I've read is basically, it first at one point in time they were calling on their Lord morning and evenings, and then it became 3, right? The Salatul Wustu was added to it later on. Surah 11, ayah 114. Okay? So, I had an issue at first with that. When I first started doing it, I was like, man, 3 salat, I don't know, man, it's 5 but once I got over that Hadith Jibreel and going up into the heavens and all that, I was like, come on now. I was like, no, it's right here clearly. It's 3. If you read it in sequence, it's 3. Salatul Fajr, Salatul Wusta, Salatul Isha. And then Surah 11, ayah 114 mentions, the 3, the morning, the sun, Dhuluk Shams, or the sun on the horizon, and then Salatul Isha. Okay? And I got another video on that. But about the salat and what to do in the salat, there's another video I got on my Facebook. But yeah, it's 3 salats. So finally, this brother finally went and did 3 salats. The next day he did 3 salats. The next day 3 salats. I finally, I contacted the guy. I said, brother, what you think? He said, yeah, brother, that's better. I said, good, alhamdulillah. I said, you do, after your salat, let's add something now. Do your dhikr tafakkur, okay? You do your reflection. Yes. Okay. I'll be down in a second. That's my little dude. Little dude said, Daddy, get off the phone. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, okay. I'll be there in a second, alhamdulillah, inshallah. I'll be in a second. Okay. But yeah, alhamdulillah, he started, doing it. So if you have an issue, the reason what this got to do with this, following the book, because that's in the book. So if a person thinks, oh, you just went off to some, no, it's all in the book. So definitely, it was 3, and it remained 3. Excuse me for a second. I know, but I will be down. I'll be there in a second. I'm still live. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Okay. Oh yeah, you can have that. That's good. You can have that. You can have both of them. Because actually that was for you. Alhamdulillah. You can actually have that. Okay. Okay, it's that time. Alhamdulillah. So, alhamdulillah, he started doing the 3 salats, and during the afternoon, he does the dhikr tafakkur. He reflects on the creation of the heavens and the earth, and he does the dhikr, and alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So that's what you do. There's surah. Well, go to my Facebook. I got the Quran by itself, the slot by the Quran by itself, and I go through that ayat and Surah 3 ayat 191 193. There's a 191 no 93, but it's Surah 3 ayat 191. Talk about reflection of the heavens and earth, and that is they say glory be to Allah. After they reflected, they say glory be to Allah. Not for any joke have you created all of this. Oh our Lord, save us from the hellfire. So that is after the dhikr and tafakur, and it talks about you can do that in the standing position, you can do that in the sitting position, kuda'a, and you can do that in the laying down on your side position. Okay, so you do that in the afternoon, you do that in the late afternoon, and also you do that after you do that during the time of Salatul Fajr and Salatul Isha. So remember, inside Allah's book it says that the remembrance of Allah is greater, is bigger than Salat. It's bigger. So it has to be greater than the Salat itself. So the Salat is 3, but the dhikr is during the afternoon. Afternoon is during the Fajr prayer, during the Isha prayer. You see? Because remembrance of Allah is more important. The whole purpose of the Salat that you're going to do anyway is a form of remembrance of Allah. 2. See what I'm saying? So remembrance of Allah is greater than the actual Salat itself. Right? But yeah, Surah 31, ayah 17, establish what is right, forbid what is wrong, and be patient over what befalls you. Indeed, all of that is in matters requiring determination. That is in Surah 31, ayah 17. Okay, that's a muhakama ayat. To enjoin the right. What is the right? The good deeds that Allah has told you. What is the right? What is the wrong? The bad deeds that Allah tell you don't do. So you forbid it. Stay away from it. Be patient. Have sabr. Be consistent over whatever befalls you. So that you stand up for Allah in your good times and your bad times. You implement the deen to yourself. That's called being patient. And take it with ease. Don't overburden yourself. Just take it with ease and natural. Natural. But indeed, always implement it, like you're supposed to. But be patient over what befalls you, and that is a matter of determination. So there's plenty of muhakama verses that we are supposed to either implement on ourselves or stay away from the bad things that tells us clearly it is bad. And that's how you follow the book of Allah. That's how you study the book of Allah. Those 3 verses I gave you that talk about the book of Allah, the following the best of it, the mother of the book. That's how you study it, and that's how you follow it. It has nothing to do with following your desires at all. And because people have said this a lot. Oh, that ahlul ahwa. He's a person on his desires. He just don't want to do this or he don't want to do that. No, I'm following the commands of my Lord, how he's told me to follow the commands of my Lord. I'm following the commands of my Lord, how he's instructed us to follow. If I thought that he said, I sent to you al-Khatab wa ahadithi, as-sunnah, whatever, I would follow that. Just as I used to follow the hadiths in matters of deen. Now, hadiths, like I said in my first video when I declared that I was following the Quran by myself, by itself, I declared that they're just history books. They're not for deen purposes. Deen is the judgment that Allah has revealed in his book. That's deen. So the hadith books are not for judgment. Hadith is just histories. And a lot of stuff is fabrications in them. There might be some few truths, but there's just history. It's not, and on top of that, really more so, that's not even the history Allah preserved for you. Because think about it. We have the battles inside the Quran. Allah chose to preserve that. What you needed to know that happened, he preserved that in there. He revealed certain things in there. And he kept it there. And he knew the future. Remember, Allah sees the past, present, future. Or what we call the past, present, future. Allah sees all that. He saw that before we were born. See? He still decided he's going to put it in the book for us now. For that time and all the way up to now. So for us, that's history. We look at it like, okay, yeah, they had this battle. They fought the Battle of the Trent, Azab, the Confederates. And Allah chose what he wanted out of those incidents that he wanted us to know in the future. He chose. So all that extra stuff, that's something people decided on their own ahwa, their own desires, what they wanted to write down, what they wanted to jot down. And then they thought that it would be cool to go ahead and put the name Sunnah on it. We're going to say it's the Sunnah of the Prophet. So people will take this. You see? But the real practice, the real Sunnah, if you want to call it in that term, Allah is what Allah's messenger practiced, and that is the book. You want to know what the Prophet did? Read the book. Because everything he was ordered and commanded to do, he was dutiful to his Lord. He was a righteous servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he followed the book as it should be followed. And he left it for us to follow and to study and to go by his muhakimat verses. That is the guidance from your Lord. When you try to teach your Lord something about your deen, they're trying to teach Allah about his deen. They're trying to say Allah needs a helper in his deen. They're trying to say that Allah needs somebody else to come later on after the Prophet and invent a hadith science so that you can know really what your deen is. They have a statement, and I used to say this statement. And may anybody say this statement, may we be forgiven, because we didn't understand what we were saying. And the statement is this: had there been no isnad, there would be no religion. Had there been no narrations, there would be no deen. Referring to the science of hadith. It said, and the more how we say it was, had there been no isnad, a person could say whatever he wanted to say in his deen. And this is the argument of having an isnad, a chain, for the chains of hadith. And they even try to put it on the Quran, just like I just stated at the beginning, how they tried to say, well, if the same people brought you the Quran, brought you the hadith, so I can reject the hadith. Well, the answer to that is this: they brought a perfect, completed book that was complete before the Prophet died. He passed it on to them perfect, and they got that perfect thing and they passed it to us. I took the perfect thing, but all the other stuff, other extra stuff that people wrote about the Prophet, I left those alone because those are flawed. I left those alone because they're contradictory. I left those alone because those was what order for me to follow. Those are just notes that somebody decided to write. And then they said the companions of the Prophet, they did it. See? But you get it from later generations after the companions. Right? So, the last example I'm going to give you about that is like this. If I came to you right now, me, and you trust me, I gave you an apple. Let's just say an apple. And it's not bitten off of. I gave you fruit, it's not bitten off of. You take the fruit because you see nothing's messed with it. It's perfect. Right? You take that. But now, if I try to give you a fruit I bit off the fruit. It has bite marks all in it, right? And I'm trustworthy still, right? It has bite marks all in it. And I try to give you the fruit. You're going to take that fruit just because I gave you the wholesome fruit without my bite marks on it? You're going to be like, no, it's all right. It's all right, brother. It's okay. I don't want the apple you bit all over, right? So let me give you another example. Let's use a car. I give you a well put together, a brand new car. Engine is right. The tires are right. Everything is right. It runs. I give it to you. I say, here you go, brother. And you say, thank you, Aki. Now you trust me. I gave you the perfect thing. So you trust me? I gave the perfect thing. You took the perfect thing. But now if I come to you and I go get a goat cart that's broke down, right? A broke down goat cart, and I get that to you, it's missing wheels, it's missing everything. It's all messed up, beat up, scratched up. It just needs a lot of fixing. You can't even hardly do nothing with it. You're going to turn around, for most of us will say, no thank you, Aki. No thank you. I'm the same person though. So this is what I'm saying. Just because the past generations gave us the perfect Quran, the perfect generations gave us the perfect Quran that was complete by time the prophet died. Just because they passed it on to us, the believers or companions or whatever titles you have for them, just because they pass on the perfect thing to us, does not mean we have to take faulty notes, hadiths that somebody else wrote about them, or that his claim was passed down from them. You see what I'm saying? I can accept from the companions or the family of the prophet the perfect Quran that the messenger gave. But at the same time, if I see something faulty, if I see something mixed with falsehood in it, and you're not supposed to mix truth with falsehood anyway, I'm not supposed to have that. So if I have that and it said it's from them, I'm supposed to leave that alone. You see? I'm not disrespecting the people that brought me the Quran. I just want the perfect book that they brought me, because I do trust that, the Quran. But that faulty stuff, I put it to the side. So this is a refutation to the argument of those who say just because, the companions brung you the Quran, you have to accept hadith. That is not true. I can accept something that's perfect. And I can also reject the thing from the same person that you claim is from the same person. That's faulty, that has falsehood in it. I can reject that. You see? So don't let them try to tell you just because you accept the Quran and it comes through the companions of the prophet or the family of the prophet. And so since you accept that perfect thing, you have to accept faulty hadiths. No, you don't. No, you don't. That's like saying, one day, and this is just a weird way of doing comparison, but I'm going to give a comparison. That's like saying a person, I gave some good examples, so I'm going to give a sort of crazy example. This is like a person who's trying to kill you, right? And I know they're not trying to kill you, but trying to kill you, right? They give you something good just to trick you, right? Let's say it's a food or something. Tastes good. You eat it. Okay? Now they gained your trust. Now they try to slip you something that you know for a fact got poison in it. You gonna take that? If I reject that, am I rejecting the good thing that I took before? So don't let them conflate for you. Don't make them make it automatic that just because you accept the book of Allah that's perfect, that came through a certain history, that you have to accept hadith books. It's not true. Because at the end of the day, them hadith books go back to a scholar who determines for you who he's not even Allah, he's not even a prophet, he don't have divine revelation, he's part of a school who got principles that they put together. Allah didn't give them those principles. They sifted, they took maybe a couple things from the Quran, some hadiths that they consider cool, and then they derive some principles from some history. And then he uses this hadith method and says this hadith is authentic, and you're supposed to accept it. Some of them tell you that if you don't accept this hadith, authentic hadith, you're a kafir now. Do you see the spot that they put themselves as if they are the prophet himself? Do you see the spot that they have put themselves as if they are Allah himself, that they can judge in deen? Are they partners with Allah in legislation? Who are you? You're a kafir because you don't accept this Sahih hadith based upon the science of hadith, mustalah hadith, usul hadith that my school invented. Just we sift and put it together. And then you got a different usul hadith. They can take the same hadith and they would declare it's da'if, it's weak. So now they're arguing over if it's weak or it's sahih. You got another school, they can take a hadith with the science and say it's sahih. And then another school would take a different hadith that is opposite of that hadith and say that's sahih. Now they're arguing over which one is sahih. It's garbage. And I don't mean to insult. It's a waste of time. There's people, trust me, there's people that's been through the schools, even the madrasas, they've done usul hadith. They've done a mustalah hadith. Let me show you something quick. You see that? Hold on. That's called, well, Principles of Testing Hadith. Okay? Principles of Testing Hadith. I have one form of mustalah right here. That means that I could take a hadith, if I so wanted to, and I could go through the isnad. I got the conditions and everything that I need to find out about the life of the person, but you don't even need that because you got biographies written already about the personalities of people of hadith, and that's how it's used. So I mean, but I got it myself, and nah, this ain't no books, but I got other books. It's a waste of time. It seems like it's cool. It seems like it's in depth. It is to an extent, but it's a waste of time because it's not what Allah revealed. And at the end of the day, somebody can dispute you. You listen, I'm telling SubhanAllah. Even in biographies, okay? In biography is, you know, the life of the person, you know about their character, you know about whether they're a person that has strong memory, you know about if the person, was a deceiver, or if he how much of a memory he had, and these different considerations are put into his biography to determine if he's a person to accept, in order for you to even accept the hadith from, okay? And that's just a few things, right? But at the end of the day, you could find somebody in another school. Check this out. Kid you not. And maybe one day I might do a whole video series on it. You could find the same person talked about in a bad manner in another school to say that man is not acceptable except a hadith from. And it's in between sects. Shia, Sunni, Ibadi. It all comes down to what guy you like, really. I mean, it's not worded like that. It's not put like that. But really, in the reality of things, that is exactly what it's like. And then the people, like other people out here who are not aware of that, you get fed lies. I'm telling you, you're being lied to. You get fed lies like, you can't understand your deen unless the people who know this stuff tell you. And it's a lie. Because you'll be in circular all day, all night, even at the top heads. They may not show you on TV or in the videos, but I'm telling you. And you ain't got to take my word for it, but just do your own research. And when you research the subject, here's what I want you. I want you to have an open mind so you're not sucked into one group. Because if you get sucked into one style of mustalah hadith or sulah hadith, then you get sucked in, you see. You'll say, oh, this is the right way. This is the way that you do it. Or, yeah. Them guys are on, batil. Them guys they got bid'ah. Them guys it's all just nothing. Okay? It's just all just a waste of time. Because at the end of the day, you never met them people. And people be like, oh, well, you never met the Prophet. How you know this Quran's true? Habibi, stop trying to cause doubt in the Quran. The Quran, we have the book here today. And even if I was to go by the principle of mutawatir, this Quran, according to the science of mutawatir, everyone agrees. See, this is the difference. Everyone agrees. We all agree that this is the book of guidance. even through mutawatir. This is the highest of mutawatir. So how can I be wrong by going just by this? And you want me to accept doubtful stuff. And we're not supposed to engage in that stuff. Doubt. Things, truth mixed with falsehood. We're not even supposed to deal with that when it comes to deen. That's why the purpose of the prophets came. That's why you had a prophet that sent you the book. So that you don't have that doubt. All you got to do is study it. Apply its muhakamat verses. If you don't go by the muhakamat verses, then yes, you're a person on desires. Because you're just bouncing around everywhere making whatever. That's not what this is for. It's for guidance. So go by the muhakamat verses, the literal clear verses. Your Lord told you straight, literally to do, and stay away from what he told you not to do, and you're guided. Later on, if Allah so wills, he will give you some understanding of mutashabihat. But don't force it. In due time, Allah will make it clear to you. And that's for your level. See, this is what people understand. That's for your level of comprehension. Each servant of Allah is going to reach a different level of understanding with the extra stuff in the book, based on the level of your dedication, based on the level of how much Allah wants to give you. And then you can share it, but always let them know, brother, here's the muhakimat. Okay? When you teach the people, you teach them, this is muhakimat, this is what we all supposed to do. Okay? Mutashabihat, it's not mandatory, and you're not bound to go by my understanding of mutashabihat. And that's the problem today. People do mutashabihat. They're all into the mutashabihat, and then they teach you it, but they don't. They make it sound like you mandatorily have to go by their understanding of mutashabihat, and you don't. So that's why I'm saying just go by the muhakimat. Allah will give you the mutashabihat when the time comes for you to have it. You don't. It's not necessarily for you right now, and your Lord don't hold it against you. That's why He said there are verses that are clear. And there are verses that are not so clear. Those whose heart there's a perversity, they seek the unclear. It cause, issues, and their hearts got certain in it, right? Perversity. So I think that's about it. I know this is mostly English because I'm speaking to an English audience. No, I wasn't. No, I'm not an Arab, so no, I don't speak Arab. And most Arabs don't even read Quranic Arabic. They don't even speak it in their regular language, okay? So they don't even know what they're reading, okay? But that's not saying you can't know what you're reading, right? It's easy to go to find out a root word and different things like that, and you can understand what you're reading. It's just that people don't take the time to actually engage the book with the book itself, instead of engaging it through a tafsir hadiths that they say mandatory you have to have. So, that was the phase I went through. I went through one phase where I was all hadithi. I'll do one day. That's my journey. I did one video. It wasn't brief, but it was just a quick stage thing because I finally had made my decision to go by the Quran alone or Quran by itself. So for example, if you look at my videos, 2018, 2017 on down, that was my phase of when I was in hadith. Okay, so if you happen to catch a video that's 2018, you're like, man, this guy come Quran by itself, but now look at it, that's a past video. Okay, so in this video, I'm letting you know, I follow Quran by itself when it comes to deen, when it comes to the laws of Allah. Follow Quran by itself. I don't follow nothing else. I don't follow hadiths, and no, that's not sunnah. Just because you put the name Sunnah on it, don't make it Sunnah. Okay? And that's not even the definition of what, Sunnah is. So maybe one day I might do a video on Sunnah too, because that's what people are getting trapped up at too. They got you thinking following the biographies of somebody. And I ain't even talking about the companions. I'm talking about the biographies of the narrators of hadith. In order for you to accept the hadith, you have to know their biographies. And they're not even companions of the Prophet or nothing. Or family of the Prophet, but they got their hadith where they say the 3 best generations, and I pointed that out, and some people got mad at me when even that hadith, the 3 best generations, that hadith they didn't even quote to a lot of you out there in the full manner. One day I'm gonna bring it up here full manner. because that hadith is talking about basically righteous. They bear witness and they give oaths in the correct manner. That's basically what it comes down to. They're righteous. They give oaths and they bear witness in the correct manner. And it's saying that later on, generations after the three, there will be people that will they will bear witness, but they will not give oaths. See, that's what the hadith's about. It's not about how they twist it and they try to say, well, they're the three best generations, so that means you have to follow their understanding of the deen. It doesn't say that. It don't say that. Right? They read that in that because they get other hadiths to try to read into that hadith when the other hadiths didn't even have nothing to do with the situation of that hadith. I'll tell you, it's a travesty. It's a travesty, you know. And so that's about it. I think that's about it. I got to get down to the family life. I'll be down there. Alhamdulillah, billah, mean, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope this was clarifying. I hope, you get something out of it. Family calling. Little man sitting there arguing with his sister. So, okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless all of you and your families and stay safe.